So the comedian Jim Gaffigan has a routine built around his large family. And he says, do you want to know what it's like to have 4 kids? Imagine you're drowning and someone hands you a baby. My name is Lisa. This is my why story. When we first heard this joke, my husband and I thought that was pretty accurate because we had 4 of our own. If you've ever had kids, or if you've even just babysat one, you know what a challenge just that one can be. So you multiply that times 4, you realize exactly how outnumbered you are. Then imagine yourself suddenly becoming a single parent of those 4 children. And then add to that 3 out of those 4 children have been clinically diagnosed with some level of special needs. That doesn't just make me a single parent, that also means that I'm a caregiver. And if you know anything about caregiving, it's a demanding job. So in 2015 we joined. It was almost a year later that I came back. And at that time I came with a challenge to get to know people because I'm not naturally an extrovert. And just to smile at one new person a day. And I was determined to actually use the equipment since that's what it was here for. And I found that as I smiled at a new person every day, they became acquaintances, and acquaintances became friends, and eventually friends became family. So really good examples of that. The first one would have to be Ryan Temple, who was working more evenings back then, and how he handled my kids. Part of the challenge was to get my kids to open up more to community. My oldest son probably internalized and understood the most of what the divorce was doing to the family. And he started having problems in school. He started giving his teachers a hard time, and he absolutely shut down toward any man. He would refuse to talk to any grown man. In fact, I became the only person he would really open up to, and I mean, I've always been his person. He's on the autism spectrum, so to watch him backslide like that was really hard. I introduced my son to Ryan that one night. I said, hey, look, you guys have the same name. And Ryan Temple stepped out, took 5 minutes out of his evening, just maybe not even 5 minutes, and introduced himself to the kids and talked about his own children. And I didn't really think it had made that big of an impact. My oldest son just stood there pretty impassively. And it wasn't until a couple days later when we came back and my son rushed the counter demanding to know where Ryan was. And this was the first time he had looked for somebody else besides me in a very long time. Other great benefits that we have, or even just love that we have seen from the Y, we were gifted swimming passes for all 4 of the kids, which is something I would never have been able to afford on my own. And we were able to take advantage of that. Another time that the Y stood up as family would be with the Kids Corner in the child care. My youngest son is also on the spectrum and has some challenges of his own. And they could have kicked us out for some of the reactions he had, but they didn't. Instead of pushing us away, they pulled us in. And Kim Borders, who manages the daycare, was great with him because she has this voice that was good at soothing. Probably he soothed for her the fastest. And another instance would have been when my son escalated to the meltdown. And we were at the front counter, and Ryan Temple, who has experience working with special needs kids, actually saw what was happening and placed himself without a thought between me and him and the rest of the gym, so that while I wrestled my son into a passive hold so he wouldn't get hurt, we at least had some decency, some privacy to deal with that, and with a little bit of dignity. His particular case continued to escalate. His behaviors grew to a point where I needed to seek help outside of everything we had already done. And in the summer of last year, so the summer of 2017, I had to have him put in a home, which is on the other side of the state. He's 542 miles from my front door, and I get to see him once a month, which my family here at the Y knew what was going on. And after it happened, there have been more people here that have offered shoulders and for me to cry on and to talk to and to work through this. And it has made this past almost a year now more bearable in that way. And then, of course, you come to the Y to get healthy and work out. That was the other half of my challenge. I had already achieved getting to know people. And when you come in and use the machines and you apply yourself, things are going to change. And I am happy to say that I've lost 50 pounds since last May. And that's kind of a nice side benefit, but not the largest benefit. In the end, we all occasionally find ourselves drowning. And it doesn't matter if your baby is a literal baby or if it's a job-related issue, family, relationships, whatever. One of the best things for me is to know that if I'm drowning and I look out on the shoreline, I know that the Y is there and they have a life ring in hand and they're ready and waiting to throw it out to me and pull you in.